we're off and racing. Another episode of Chronicles on the Fly. This time, only myself, Simon and Mel. What's your brother doing today, Mel?
Don't know. Family duties, I think, my friend.
Okay, all right.
Family duties.
Well, we've been arguing during the week, so save a bit of a punch-up. So it's all good. All right, now we're recording on our new little fancy device, the Zoom H6, so we're giving it a test run. So far, yeah, it's a bit hit and miss.
Yes, it's a little bit hit and miss, but I think anyway, long term will be fine.
Okay. So what are we talking about today?
Oh, there's a few things we can talk about, but I don't know. What do you want to talk about, Simon? What's in your mind?
I noted down a couple of things during the week. So obviously is that we've come from our last episode when we were in lockdown. Now we've come out of lockdown, and really the only difference is that we just have to wear masks in public, but that finishes at the end of today.
No, it's tomorrow, isn't it?
Isn't it? No, it's today.
Is it?
Midnight Saturday,
is it? Okay.
Which is tonight, right?
Tonight,
so
okay.
On Sunday we don't have to wear them anymore in public.
I'd like to slap Australia Post because I ordered my mask at the on the Sunday postage, and I received them yesterday. After all that,
why is that a surprise to you if you ordered it once you needed it?
Yes, but it doesn't take 14 days to deliver on Australia Post.
Okay,
that is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
All right.
So it is pretty stupid that it takes 14 days for our national postage carrier to deliver a package.
So does that mean you've been gallivanting around the place without a mask on?
No. I've had masks. I bought a nice, a more comfortable mask. I've gone from a traditional mask to a more comfortable mask.
Okay.
But there's no point because it came yesterday. So, and we don't have to worry about it anymore.
I mean, I've only had to wear it. I think I've needed it 4 times. I think 3 were trips to the shop to pick up the essentials, milk and bread, and once to another place. But that's it. And I've just been using an industrial dust mask. That'll do the job.
I had to wear a mask to take my daughter to school, actually. So
oh, really?
My daughter she started kindy, so one parent can go in and have to have a mask.
Oh, yeah. We got the emails coming through about what all the guidelines were and everything else, whatever.
All for one case.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. We were pretty critical, weren't we, last time about it, right? One case, why do we have to lock down? However, I was reading some tweets from the head of the AMA, I think the WA chapter of the Australian Medical Association, Andrew Miller, his name was, right? So what he has said, and he went on radio saying this as well, saying, because as a response to everyone, saying this is overreach, overreaction, etc. But the thing is with this, because it's airborne, right, the virus, it hangs in the air. These droplets hang in the air. So that's why, you could walk into a shopping centre and someone just walks through the air that you breathed in or breathed out 20 seconds, 30 seconds before. Those droplets are still hanging in the air and you're breathing it in, right? So it's airborne.
No different to the common cold.
The thing is, and then you've got to also consider the types of people who spread this virus. About 10 or 20%, I think, of people are super spreaders.
That's the new word, super spreader. A super spreader is actually a machine they use on a farm, by the way.
Is it? Okay. But it's used as a comparison to some people who spread it very, not much at all. But some, these super spreaders, that he reckons, can spread it to 50 to 100 people, right? And then if you think, well, what's the percentage of potential super spreaders in that 50 to 100 people? Could be. That's how it spreads exponentially. So this is the reason why they couldn't take the risk, and they had to, or roll the dice that this guy was not going to be a spreader. And obviously, this one case turned out not to be a spreader at all. And it's just by chance. It's just pure luck. But the medical advisors had to tell McGowan, you've got to lock down, right? And basically, he's following the advice. Now, we've been harsh on McGowan. But if you've got that on the table, right, you can either roll the dice that this guy's not going to spread, or there's an 80% or so chance that he is going to spread something. That's why they go into early lockdown, right? And that's why Victoria's, what have they got? They had about 5 cases and now they've gone into lockdown. This is why they go hard fast, because you can't tell up front how much those early cases are going to be spreading. And if they happen to be super spreaders, then basically you're stuffed. It's just going to exponentially spread. So I think because of that, I'm probably less critical.
I look at it from a small business point of view. You're told shut down, end of story, a week. The cost to small business would have been massive. That's just how I see it. And people don't take that into consideration, which is quite frustrating. Because if you're a small business and you've been told, no, that's it, you can't operate, well, you got staff. Because at the end of the day, and the cherry that he gave was that he gave a $500 credit on your electricity bill. But that doesn't go much to paying your week's wages, does it? You still got to pay the holiday pay if they're holiday pay, right? And that's got to come from somewhere. So the money is you've lost a week's trade, and I've known small business. I've had a couple of retail shops that reckon they were dead, and retail shops you think they would have been really busy, were very quiet. They said, and the staff are complaining they wanted hours. They get holiday pay and this and that. It's like, mate, you're a casual. So, and on the flip side, this is also why a lot of employers employ casuals. It's kind of answered the question why they would employ casuals. Situations like this.
Anyway, we go back to normal tomorrow.
Well, more normal.
But hang on, I do have one gripe with McGowan, left over, let's say, is that during the week when they announced, I think it was a couple of days ago, they announced that, yep, we're going to, be going back to normal on Sunday, okay? The way things were before this one case arose. However, why couldn't he just announce, as of now, we're back to normal? Why did he have to leave it another 2-3 days? If they knew that it was going to go back to, pre-lockdown conditions, why not just say, all right, we're in pre-lockdown conditions now? Because what's going to change from that time he announced it to the next 3 days to when it was originally officially going to be ended?
I can't answer.
Because when South Australia pulled back their lockdown,
it was effective.
It was effective immediately. So why couldn't they just do it here?
Oh.
Anyway,
I'd like you said. I think this whole world's become a bit, what's the word? Cautious. It's overcautious, and this whole overcautious has made people a bit. What's the word? I don't know. What would you say? They've become like all scared and frightened of everything.
Yeah.
Frightened their own shadow.
There has been scaremongering, but I don't know. Who knows what the right answer is?
And it's not just Australia. We're talking across the whole world.
Yep. Anyway, the other big issue of the week in Australia was Eddie.
Oh, Eddie.
What do you reckon of that situation? Eddie McGuire stepping down as Collingwood president after 22 years.
Right or wrong, he's probably made a choice on the benefit of the football club because he's taken, like his comments were, he's a lightning rod vitriol, so he's just taken the heat. So he took one for the team and said, that's it, I'm sorry, and left. But in saying that, Eddie's done remarkable things for that club, and I think people have neglected to acknowledge that fact. Like before he got there, as a 38-year-old man, that club was on the bones of bankruptcy. It had no money.
I think he was 34. 34 when he became president of Collingwood. That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. But it was on the brink of bankruptcy. Now, in that 22 years, he's managed to make it probably one of the most profitable clubs in Australia. He's also taken out that they earn no revenue from pokie machines, which is quite a contrast from Essendon Football Club that extended their contract for pokie machines. So he's done a few very good things for that club. He's got good sponsorship. He's always had him in the media. He's made him,
as well as initiatives in the community to improve things in the community and programs and stuff. So yes, he hasn't been given credit for that. I think that the good he has done for football and in community in general has far outweighed any negative things. Or even any perceived racism on his part.
He has stuffed up in the past, no question about it.
He's misspoken a number of times. I don't think that he's a racist person. I think that he's just stuffed up a few times. Now, the circumstances that, basically the straw that's broken the camel's back, let's say, which is former player accusing the whole club of being of having institutionalized racism, or however you want to put it. What do you think of that?
Well, I wasn't part of the club and I didn't follow Collingwood football. So it's not like I say, yeah, they were racist. It's hard for us that were outside, most people outside the circle, to say if they're a racist club or not. I mean, we weren't in it. It's interesting to ask why don't they ask some players that were there at the time what their opinions were?
Well, some past players have spoken up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You get a mixed review.
Not fully in support of Lumumba.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I mean, things have come out that he gave himself the nickname Chimp, which, was widely adopted around the club, and he didn't seem to be fussed. He called himself that. And now you also got to consider, was he just a young guy and he just went along with it to get along and
just
to fit into the group?
Yeah,
I can sympathise with that.
Yeah, I can sympathise with that.
But what's he hoping to achieve by doing, going after them basically? He's suing them. So he is going after them, right? Now, don't you become a grown man, and this is, obviously everyone's experience is different, but I would think that you become a grown man, you mature, you have life experience, you learn to shrug shit off to a certain extent. Now, that's not condoning any racism. And I don't think that nicknames like that and banter has an intent of racism, to be honest. I've been involved in sports clubs with dark-skinned people, and it's like it's a non-issue. Like, just racism is you've got to be a pretty evil person to be overtly racist.
Oh, and there's plenty of evil people in the world.
No, but in sports clubs, it's very rare. It's very rare that there's bad-intentioned people and racist people, I find. If he wasn't happy with something, he should have spoken up back then, I think. He's always been outspoken.
I actually thought he was a good player.
He was a good player.
He was a very good player.
He was a good player. I just think that his gripe is, way, way, way after the fact, is misplaced.
What it does show is the power of the people. Sometimes they can get the president fired because they had the open letter.
Well, look, I think he had to go.
Yeah,
right?
well, no, I think that Eddie was, like I said, I think it was the right decision at the time for Eddie to make for himself.
No, I don't. I disagree there. I don't think it was the right decision. I think he had no choice, but I don't think it's right. But I don't think it's right that he should have been pressured so much in the way that he was.
I think it was the right decision.
He didn't deserve that.
He didn't deserve that, but it was the right decision for the club because of all the heat that had been
because of the circumstance that they inevitably have found themselves in. Yes, it was just there was no other option, right? And basically, sponsors were pressured. That's right. Obvious. That's obvious because that always happens. Once sponsors threaten boycotts, people threaten to boycott sponsors of the club. Sponsors go, all right, when we're changing our terms or whatever. I think one sponsor pulled out $1 million of sponsorship to the club and redirected it to Aboriginal community programs.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right?
It's up to them.
Yeah. So it's affecting the bottom line of the club. Once that happens, that's it. The person at the top, their head always rolls. So that's obvious.
And it's a sponsor can do it. It's their money. They can do whatever they like with it.
Yeah.
So you can't argue with that.
All right. And the thing is, once one sponsor does something like this, the rest, it's peer pressure. The rest have to be seen to do it as well. Otherwise, they get accused of...
It's a snowball effect. Total snowball effect.
And it sucks that that's the way it is. But again, keep coming back to the same old saying. It's the woke new world we're in.
That's the life we're in. That's the world. That's the world's changed. That's what the world's like now. So, as much as it's as positives, it's one of the negatives. That is what it is. Speaking of the woke new world that we're in, new song that's come out by this artist called Tom McDonald. I think he might be Canadian. Canadian.
So the song is called Fake Woke, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. You alerted me to this.
I think it's crazy I'm the one who they labeled as controversial, and Cardi B is the role model for 12-year-old girls. There's rappers pushing Xanax at the top of the billboard, but if I mention race in a song, I'm scared I'll get killed for it. It's backwards, it's getting exponentially dumb. It's more difficult to get a job than purchase a gun. Eminem used to gay bash and murder his mom, and now he doesn't want fans if they voted for Trump. We're ashamed to be American. You should probably love it, cause you have the right to say it and not get strung up in public. As children we were taught how to walk and talk, but the system wants adults to sit down and shut up. Cancel culture runs the world now, the planet went crazy. Label everything we say as homophobic or racist. If you're white, then you're privileged, guilty by association. All our childhood heroes got Me Too'd or they're rapists. They never freed the slaves. They realized that they don't need the chains. They gave us tiny screens, we think we free cause we can't see the cage. They knew that race war would be the game they need to play. For people to big teams, they use the media to feed the flame. They so fake woke. Facts don't care about feelings. They know they won't tell me what to believe in. They so fake woke. Same old safe zones. They so fake woke. Facts don't care about your feelings. I think it's crazy how these people screaming facts.
What do you reckon?
I reckon what related me to was that someone made a video that he got cancelled on Amazon and on Apple iTunes.
Yes, but that last, and that just goes to the hypocrisy of
the song.
Of the hypocrisy that the song's pointing out, right? Because he actually talks about being cancelled. He's got another song called "Cancelled," which is actually fully about people whose speech isn't liked for whatever reason, being cancelled. For them to cancel or to remove his song from the platform,
kind of works for him.
It worked in his favour because it made them guilty. So then they had to put it back on, which they're doing, which they've done.
Which I think also he drove up his YouTube video account because no one was like, oh my God, this song got cancelled on iTunes. So indirectly they caused the problem.
Yeah. So I think what we should do is, let me just pull up the lyrics. So some of the lyrics in this song, he's talking about Eminem. Eminem used to gay bash and murder his mum, and now he doesn't want fans if they voted for Trump. We're ashamed to be American. You should probably love it because you have the right to say it and not get strung up in public. What else we got?
Pretty powerful, yeah.
Cancel culture runs the world now. The planet went crazy. Label everything we say as homophobic or racist. If you're white, then you're privileged, guilty by association. All our childhood heroes get Me Too'd or they're rapists. I mean, some of them legitimately, but others...
so definitely some of them legitimately.
Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, those types for sure. But yeah, a lot of people have been unfairly accused, let's say, and that's a common thing. I would encourage our listeners to listen to that. So it's called Fake Woke by Tom McDonald.
And he's not your type of person you'd think would sing that song. If you had to judge a book by its cover.
Censoring the facts turns our children into idiots. They claim it's for our safety. I'll tell you what it really is. Removing information that empowers all the citizens. The truth doesn't damage points of view that are legitimate. I mean, there's heaps more examples of lyrics that just get to the heart of, woke nonsense that goes around these days in media and in general. So yeah, go and listen to that.
Yes.
We'll put it on our, I'll put the YouTube clip on our Facebook page as well. So go and have a look at that on Chronicles on the Fly Facebook page.
Well, yeah, so that was an interesting song, actually. Very interesting.
Yeah, well, I listened last night. I listened to a few more of his previous songs, and he's got a lot of stuff that's like that. That's probably the best one that I've heard, but he's got a lot of other stuff as well. And that's not my kind of music. It's like, what style? Hip hop rap?
Hip hop rap.
Yeah, like I would never listen to that crap, but it does have a pretty good beat and pretty good hook or rhythm, whatever you want to call it.
Some rap's okay.
Yeah, some of it that. And especially because of the lyrics, that resonated with me, I thought.
Did the Superbowl?
Yes.
Tom Brady. Does he go down as probably one of the greatest Super Bowl? seven Super Bowls he's won? Why I like that is it gives us old men a bit of hope that you can still do stuff.
43 wins his seventh. Obviously, just by looking at those stats, he's got to be the greatest player ever in that sport. in American football. What I've found hilarious coming out of the Super Bowl is people online saying he's the greatest sportsman ever. I love these Americans. They think that America is the world.
Yeah, but that's no different when they say Wayne Gretzky was the greatest sports person of all time.
Again, sports that are irrelevant outside that country.
Yeah, well, you know, between Canada, only sports that's relevant. Hockey.
We may as well say that, I don't know, pick someone, Polly Farmer Lee Matthews are the greatest sportsmen ever because they were good at AFL.
Wait a second. Aussies always say Don Bradman. They always say that. You can always, if you're the greatest sports person, Don Bradman.
I've actually heard that this week. I can't remember who said it.
Really? Come on, seriously.
Someone in the media said Don Bradman this week. Can't remember.
He's the greatest sportsman of all time.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, obviously it's ridiculous, but at least that's not a one country sport, cricket. Oh, yeah. At least.
Yeah, but come on, seriously. No, right? All right, between the population of Australia, New Zealand, and besides, take out India, the same population as America.
Okay, all right. It's ridiculous, yes. We can just end that conversation with one word, Maradona, and the case closed.
Yeah, well, that's all. And now someone else would say Muhammad Ali.
I'm sorry, but no. Anyway.
It was a very, very good sportsman. Very good sportsman.
Yes, he was. But he was not. I'm sorry. To me, it's like there's no argument. Diego Maradona is the greatest sportsman who ever lived.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny that. I agree with you 100% on that.
I think because it has to come from football.
If you have to look at
it's the world game. It's the only world game. So that's it.
You could turn around and say, some people might say Usain Bolt.
No.
Yeah, because everyone runs. Every country runs.
Okay.
Everyone runs in the world.
All right. But, in terms of...
He's pretty awesome. Usain Bolt was amazing.
Yes. Cultural impact, okay? You've got to have it. You've got to have that, all right? And Maradona is the person in the world, in the world game, who has had the greatest cultural impact, as well as being the best at it. So I just won't hear arguments about, to the contrary. That's it. I'm very stubborn about that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm not going to argue. I reckon that too. If you have to pick one sport, obviously, because it's a world game.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Talking about the Super Bowl now, something a little bit closer to my heart is
Bruce Springsteen.
The Bruce Springsteen controversy that's come out of it because of the ad that he did. Now, was it halftime ad?
Halftime ad.
Okay. All right. So he's done this ad for Jeep about. Did you see the ad?
I actually thought it was selling cars. That's what the whole ad should have been.
All right. It was about, of course, it's about selling cars. If Jeep's going to put their logo at the end of the ad, it's about cars. Right. But
what I'm saying is if you're going to do an ad about cars, try and sell cars. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion.
Well, again, the woke new world. All right. So Jeep has done this ad about unifying the country, America.
There's a chapel in Kansas, standing on the exact center of the lower 48. It never closes. All are more than welcome to come meet here in the middle. It's no secret. The middle has been a hard place to get to lately, between red and blue, between servant and citizen, between our freedom and our fear. Now, fear has never been the best of who we are. And as for freedom, it's not the property of just the fortunate few. It belongs to us all. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, it's what connects us. And we need that connection. We need the middle. We just have to remember the very soil we stand on is common ground. So we can get there. We can make it to the mountaintop, through the desert, and we will cross this divide. Our light has always found its way through the darkness. And there's hope on the road up ahead.
Bruce, the premise is, he's in Kansas, which is, one of the middle states of America. So it's, pretty much in the middle of America. So the concept is we need to meet in the middle, right? And there's the backdrop of a church and blah, 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 right? I love Bruce. Okay, obviously I'm a ridiculous, fanatical, you could say, Bruce Springsteen fan. Have been for a number of years. I'm wearing his T-shirt right now, actually. I don't agree with all of his opinions and views. Obviously, I have a conservative mind politically. He is very much left-leaning.
I wouldn't say he's more liberal than.
Okay.
I wouldn't say he's left. There's a distinction between left and liberal.
Okay. He's very liberal.
He's
Democrat supporting.
He's a liberal.
But they've gone so far left, the Democrats. So he's of the left. Okay, plain and simple. Okay, I've got a lot to unpack about this. So where do I begin? Now, people say that you can't like Bruce Springsteen if you're right leaning or conservative. Okay, because all his lyrics are about politics of the left and that kind of thing. I find that to be absolute bullshit.
Yeah, great.
Okay,
I think that's bullshit.
Because music and lyrics,
like.
Yes, music and lyrics you can interpret and can mean anything that it wants for you.
What was this song that was the Born in the USA? That was an anti-Vietnam song. Born
in the USA is not a pro-America patriotic song. It is a patriotic song because it's about sticking up for
was it about the vets?
American vets and the poor way they were treated by the country when they returned. Okay?
So 100%. And that song, 100% was right. 100%
so
right.
it's not a America rah rah right song. It's always been misinterpreted that way. It was first and foremost by Ronald Reagan, who tried to talk it up in one of his presidential elections, right? Until he was called out for that. Anyway, that's another story.
Mm-hmm. But she still won.
And the reason I say that Born in the USA is a patriotic song is because Bruce loves his country, that he was calling out these wrong things that happened to these Vietnam vets. Okay, so again, go and read the lyrics and you'll see.
And correctly so. They were even here. We were like, you know better than anyone.
Yeah,
the vets were never.
But I suppose that song, it sounds like a Go America song because of just the sound of it, all right? And people don't pay attention to much, beyond the chorus. But let's go back to the Jeep Superbowl ad that he did. Okay. He's talking about unity and go and watch it. It's only a 2-minute long ad. The right or conservatives or the right are calling him out and just the left out in general for being hypocrites, because the only reason why it's become such a common thing now that these Democrats and people supporting the Democrats in America are calling for this, unity for the country and blah, blah, blah. They're only saying that because they won the election, because they got their boy in the White House. If Trump had won the election and was still the president, it would still be the same as they'd be doing the same thing that they've been doing for the last 4 years, which is screaming blue murder about Trump and conservatives and hating on them. All right. Vitriol towards them. That's all it's been. Okay. So they have a legitimate reason for calling Springsteen and the left hypocritical for that message, that unify message. Okay. And now Springsteen's also been copying it from the left side or supporters of the Democrats and the left in America, because basically they don't want to unify, right? They still hate conservatives and Trump supporters. So their view is, why the hell would we want anything to do with these people? They're disgusting. They're fascists. They're Nazis. Blah blah blah. Trump supporters are deplorables, like Clinton called them. They're terrible people. So those people hate that message, and there's probably 10% in the middle who think this unify message is a good message. Okay, it is a good message in general. Now, knowing as much about Bruce Springsteen as I do, because I've been a fan of him for so long, I know that Bruce Springsteen comes from a well-intentioned place. Okay, obviously he would have been paid very handsomely for it. However, him saying this message comes from a well-intentioned place. Again, tinged with a little bit of hypocrisy, I suppose, because he's said things against Trump in the last 4 or 5 years as well, right? But the thing is, he's only said things in interviews when he's been asked about it. So he hasn't constantly lectured and just not let up about Trump, okay? He only says his opinion, and obviously his opinion was always negative, didn't like Trump, called him a narcissist and that type of thing in interviews when he was asked about it. But again, has not constantly lectured. So I've got to give him a little bit of credit for that, even though I would not fully agree with his views. The only time I've heard Bruce Springsteen lecture is, of all places, in Perth, right? Because in February 2017, he came and did an Australian tour, and this was his first tour after the November 2016 election when Trump won. So it was his first concert basically after the Trump victory, and it was around the time that they were doing that women's march, which was, again, a bit of bullshit as well, but we're not going to get into that. So at the start of his first concert on the Australian tour, which happened to be at Perth Arena, he did a quick, maybe 20-second rant against Donald Trump because he'd just been voted in and he was so much against him.
E Street Band is glad to be here in Western Australia. Yes. But we're a long way from home, and our hearts and spirits are with the hundreds of thousands of women and men that marched yesterday in every city in America and in Melbourne, who rallied against hate and division and in support of tolerance, inclusion, reproductive rights.
I didn't think that it was necessary, but obviously it wasn't directed at Perth fans going to his show. It was directed at whoever anywhere around the world was going to listen. And that's the only time that I can think of that he's actually, lectured or ranted his political view at a concert. The rest, it's all subtle in his lyrics, let's say. Okay, but anyway, it's his concert. I suppose he can do what he wants. And apart from that initial 20, 30 seconds, I enjoyed the rest of the show. Now, do I stop supporting Bruce Springsteen because I didn't like that rant, or I didn't like his stance about conservative politics or Donald Trump or this ad that he's done, which is a little bit hypocritical for the Superbowl ad? No, I still love Bruce Springsteen. I still give him credit for being a good person because I know he is. But maybe he was a little bit naive in doing this ad. Because he maybe should have anticipated more the blowback that he was going to get.
Maybe he thought he was doing the right thing. Maybe he thought he was...
Absolutely. That's what I mean. This comes from a well-intentioned place. He did think he was doing the right thing.
And maybe he's smart enough to realise you got him in the middle somewhere.
That is true. But there's a lot of things that you could throw at him and say, yeah, you're doing this ad in Kansas. Kansas voted Republican. You know what I mean? So you can easily, for all the well-intentioned aspects of it, there's a hypocritical aspect of it. That's my thoughts. Yes, I'm still going to listen to Bruce Springsteen. And next time he does a tour, I'm still going to be front and center. I don't agree with all his views, and I don't think every one of his. I know very well because I communicate with a lot of other Springsteen fans who share my view, but still love him, and I think that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You could say the same as for Bono of U2, right? He's far more extreme and outspoken than Bruce Springsteen has ever been in terms of his liberalism or whatever you want to call it,
yeah.
right? And he preaches and rants like there's no tomorrow at his concerts. I still love U2. I'm not, U2 is nothing without Bono.
True.
So I still love their music. I'm still going to be a fan.
Yeah, most musicians are of the more liberal sort of.
Well, entertainers in general are. And the ones that have a more right-wing conservative-leaning view get cancelled. And we've seen that this week as well. This is what happens. You're an entertainer with a left-leaning view, you're embraced. You're an entertainer with a right-leaning view, you're cancelled. It's the way it goes. All right, let's wrap it up there. Wrap up the package, which is another episode of Chronicles on the Fly. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we will see you soon. Ciao.
A major difference between the right and the left concerns the way each seeks to improve society. Conservatives believe that the way to a better society is almost always through the moral improvement of the individual, by each person doing battle with his or her own weaknesses and flaws. It is true that in violent and evil societies, such as fascist, communist, or Islamist tyrannies, the individual must be preoccupied with battling outside forces. Almost everywhere else, though, certainly in a free and decent country such as America, the greatest battle of the individual must be with inner forces, that is, with his or her moral failings. The left, on the other hand, believes that the way to a better society is almost always through doing battle with society's moral failings. Thus, in America, the left concentrates its efforts on combating sexism, racism, intolerance, xenophobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, and the many other evils that the left believes permeate American society. One important consequence of this left-right distinction is that those on the left are far more preoccupied with politics than those on the right. Since the left is so much more interested in fixing society than in fixing the individual, politics inevitably becomes the vehicle for societal improvement. That's why whenever the term activist is used, we almost always assume that the term refers to someone on the left. Another consequence of this left-right difference is that since conservatives believe society is changed one person at a time, they accept that change happens gradually. This isn't fast enough for the left, which is always and everywhere focused on social revolution. An excellent example of this was a statement by the then presidential candidate Barack Obama just days before his first election in 2008. To a rapturous audience, he declared, "We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America." Conservatives not only have no interest in fundamentally transforming the United States of America, they are strongly opposed to doing so. Conservatives understand that fundamentally transforming any society that isn't fundamentally bad, not to mention transforming what is one of the most decent societies in history, can only make the society worse. Conservatives believe that America can be improved, but should not be transformed, let alone fundamentally transformed. The founders of the United States recognized that the transformation that every generation must work on is the moral transformation of each citizen. Thus, character development was at the core of both child rearing and of young people's education from elementary school through college. As John Adams, the second president, said, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." And in the words of Benjamin Franklin, only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. Why is that? Because freedom requires self-control. The freer the society, the more self-control is necessary. If the majority of people don't control themselves, the state, meaning an ever more powerful government, will have to control them. From the founding of the United States until the 1960s, schools and parents concentrated on character education. But with the ascent of left-wing ideas, character education has all but disappeared from American schools. Instead, children are taught not to focus on their flaws, but on America's. Social issues have replaced character education. An example is a new K-12 science curriculum, the next generation of science standards, which will teach young Americans starting in kindergarten about global warming. And when they get to college, American young people will be taught about the need to fight economic inequality, white privilege, and the alleged rape culture on their campuses. Ironically, if there really is a rape culture that permeates American college campuses, the only reason would have to be that there is so little character education in our schools, or for that matter, at home. Fathers and religion, historically the two primary conveyors of self-control, are non-existent in the lives of millions of American children. We are now producing vast numbers of Americans who are passionate about fixing America while doing next to nothing about fixing their own character. The problem, however, is that you can't make society better unless you first make its people better. I'm Dennis Prager.